Happy Friday, everyone. Glad to have you back for our newest edition of Bear Facts Friday. We've got a lot to cover this week and excited to share that with you. And just as a reminder, what it includes is a big picture perspective of some news items of the week, offering a bit of perspective about the markets and investing, as well as some life wisdom or tips and tricks. So the big news of the week is that Kodak is back in the news. I know, a company that we seemingly have probably all forgotten about. I remember when my grandparents and even I used to take pictures on the disposable cameras, but that seems like forever ago. But they're back in the news now because President Trump announced earlier this week that they would be receiving a $765 million loan from the government to help begin to produce ingredients for generic drugs for Americans. I think with the pandemic that has happened, one of the things that at least I've heard from many people is, well, we need to be less dependent on foreign countries for some of our drugs. And so this appears to be what we're working towards here, and why Kodak was tapped with it. Kodak, famous for being the film company, they had also dabbled a little bit in pharmaceuticals back in the late 1980s, and more recently in the crypto space. So this will be interesting to see how it unfolds and ultimately what it means. But again, the idea is to start to work towards reducing America's dependency on foreign countries for some of our essential drugs that we do need. And along those lines, for perspective, we'll stick with Kodak and we'll call it the Kodak craze. And just to let you know a little bit about what's happened with the stock side of things as a result of the big news this week, we see that Kodak has kind of just been humming along for at least the last 12 months or so. It's always been around $1 or $2 per share. And in fact, the 52-week low prior to this week was $1.50. And this week, it spiked all the way to $60 per share, rallying as much as 2,700% in just a really short amount of time. And that's really not surprising because when news hits the markets, it impacts things very quickly, almost with the snap of a finger. And we saw that in this case. So I intentionally didn't put the chart on the screen today because I would like for you to go and Google it and see what happened, looking at Kodak stock and how it was impacted in such a very, very short time, really a matter of hours or minutes. So much so that it actually tripped the circuit breakers more than a dozen times in a single day. You might most recently remember those circuit breakers back in maybe late March timeframe when the market was falling and the circuit breakers kicked in to halt things for a period of time. The same thing happened with Kodak stock on the way up because it was climbing so rapidly. And what was the root cause of a lot of this? A lot of it was retail investors, believe it or not, including an app like Robinhood, which if you're not familiar with that, it gives users access to trade very inexpensively and even with fractional shares. And so within the Robinhood app, prior to the news breaking, there were about 9,000 people that owned Kodak stock. And shortly after the news broke, there were about 65,000 people that owned the Kodak stock. So again, all this to put it in perspective, just how quickly things can change in the market. And it's a great reminder, things change very rapidly and very quickly. And it's oftentimes very difficult to beat people to the punch without some sort of illegal insider information. So Kodak is the big news of the week here.
Hey, Mark, I've got a question for you today. Do you know where your car title, your house deed, your auto insurance policy, your social security card, and your passport are?
You want me to answer that?
Of
I
course
actually
you
do.
do.
I actually
You
do
do, I
know what
know.
my car title is. Yep.
I'm sure you do. But think about for a minute some of the more obscure things that you own that are less commonly needed over the course of your life. How about that savings bond that your grandmother gave you on your 18th birthday? Do you have any idea where that might be? Or some of the gift cards that you received when Bennett was born. Now, Lindsay probably has those all taken care of. But where I'm going with this is one of the situations that I've been dealing with this week is a situation where someone has made an investment many, many years ago. And that investment was transferred into another holding account, an IRA. And now comes the time where we are trying to determine what the value of that asset is, but we don't have any documentation. It's been, the course of people's lives, you move, as you are so aware, things get boxed up. Maybe not everything gets unboxed, and documents just kind of disappear. And so my message today is keep track of some of these documents, because believe it or not, you will need them. When you have it in your hand, you think, oh, I won't need this for forever. Well, forever comes a lot sooner than you think it does. And then you have to go back and hunt for it. You will pull out your hair trying to figure out what you've done with it. If you still have it, do you have it? Do your parents have it? Do your children have it? Who knows where it's gone. So I would recommend to everybody to go out and find one of those little document scanners. I have one at home that sits on my desk. It takes up less space than the telephone that I have here on my desk. And it was probably a couple $100. And when I get stuff that I know I might need sometime in the future, I just let it run through there. And then I've got it on my laptop. And it doesn't matter where my husband puts it, I will always be able to find it. So y'all have a good day.
I love that. And, especially I recently just went through a move. So I have seen both sides of it very recently. On the one side, I feel like I did gather some things and put them in a specific place for all the important documents. But on the flip side, it all got shoved into some box somewhere. So I know it's all kind of in together one place. I just got to go find that box. But that's great advice there for everybody out there. Keep track of what you've got, because over time things do accumulate. And it's only going to help you out in the long run. So that's what we've got for you this week. We appreciate everyone tuning in and hope you have a great